Hello and welcome to Daddy Issues, the podcast where we talk about Pokemon and human relationships in popular culture. My name is Dominic Archer. With me, as always, is the trainer of my heart. It's David Bryan. Hey Dave, how are you doing on this Poketacular day?
Poketacular? Bit of a stretch. I am super psyched.
Are you super psyducked?
I'm super psyducked for this, yeah. I'm about to thrash uncontrollably and leave you confused to the point where you hurt yourself.
Well, the good news is that I'm going to evolve into a spectacular Gyarados. And
are you putting your current form down? Are you trying to say that you are but a meager Magikarp?
Oh man, I am a Magikarp of a man. Let me tell you that. I'm going to get that tattooed. I'm a Magikarp of a man. And then
dot around.
Yeah, just waiting to become the Gyarados inside. Like that.
Well, what's life like inside your Pokeball today, Dom?
Oh, sunny. Actually, it's a sunny day. One of the moves I immediately get rid of on all of my Fire-type Pokemon when we're playing. But normally, Dave, this is a podcast in which we talk about father and son relationships in popular culture. So how could we possibly be talking about Pokemon when everyone knows in Pokemon the one person who is not present at all is the father?
That's true. There's never the dad. It's always mum that you go back to for those few quick, easy heal-ups at the first few minutes of the game.
I think there is one game where it turns out that your dad left because he's now like the final gym leader at the end. I can't remember if that's true, and if it is true, I don't know which game it is, but I seem to remember that might be the case. But that's the only dad that I can remember from Pokemon, if that is true. As you say, normally it's like your dad's nowhere to be seen, he's left you, and your mum's like, I can't afford to raise a 10-year-old child on my own as a single mum. Go away to that weird Pokemon professor so he can send you on an adventure.
Yeah. Go into his weird lab on your own. Take whatever he gives you, no matter what it looks like or smells like.
Yeah.
And then leave on your own through wilderness. and have a good time. Just have a good time.
Well, speaking of
an inordinate amount of money for some reason.
Oh, yeah, you get so rich, and I always find that confusing because it is always in yen, and yen obviously is a higher amount anyway in terms of like the amount of digits of a yen to a pound, like that. So it seems like you become super rich, but maybe because of the translation, the exchange rates, it's like actually you're not that rich at all if you put it into pounds. But it always seems like you have like 100,000. It's like, oh my god,
100,000 of whatever it may be. But then that must mean that the products that you buy, the potions and whatnot, must be super fucking cheap because you can always buy way more than you need.
Yeah,
you never run out, and you never like, oh man, if only I had a bit more scratch. Oh, don't worry, I'll find a nugget or some stardust or a few mushrooms that I can sell for 6, 7, 8, 9 grand each.
Well, if you'll remember back to the humble years of 2009, one of the first things I was writing when we were at university together was an analysis of the economic systems used in the world of Pokemon. And this was before clickbait and this kind of thing was common, in which I was probably a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of writing, like, if you were to live in the DC Comics universe, what would your profession be? And the answer obviously is Windows. You should be in the business of making and repairing windows and giant golden planet things that sit on top of newspaper buildings, because they're always getting ripped off.
Never be short of work.
No,
that's true. So yeah, you were probably the precursor to BuzzFeed and Crack.com and all these other kind of top 10 list articles.
Yeah, but mine was like a super in-depth analysis of like another one was from Star Trek Generations. I remember there's a bit at the end of Star Trek Generations where Malcolm McDowell shoots a missile from a planet into the star, and the star then is destroyed. And there's a whole other reason to it for that. But Malcolm McDowell's going to send this missile, and Worf is like, to destroy that missile, it's going to take 9 seconds for that missile to get from the planet to the sun, which is not enough time for me to target and destroy the missile. And it's like supposed to build tension. But as a nerd, I'm sat there going, well, how fast is this missile going? To get from a Class M planet, Dave, which can sustain human life, so must be within the Goldilocks zone, to get planet to that star in 9... It takes 8 minutes from light to get from the sun to us, at the speed of light. So that missile has to have a warp engine, but we all know, Dave, how big warp drives are. So as you can imagine, I am just chomping at the bit as an 18-year-old
to disprove Star Trek Generations, or to just expose the science of their claims?
To destroy everything that I love.
Oh, sure.
I think, and the great thing is that the other people of our generation who grew up with that same feeling have managed to do just that. So congratulations to them. However, just when you think all is lost, just when you think Zack Snyder is going to ruin another part of your life, a shining light appears in the sky with the voice of Ryan Reynolds, and you're like, oh, it's not going to be more fucking Deadpool stuff, is it? Like, we just had 15 years where Deadpool. But it's not Deadpool, Dave. It's that little cheeky electric mouse that we all knew and loved. And this time he's back, and he's a detective.
Isn't he just? I mean, he's got the hat and everything. It can't be disputed that he is, in fact, a detective.
You really could not dispute that, because, it's the fucking name of the movie. It's called Detective Pikachu. Were you excited for this movie when you first heard about it? Because Detective Pikachu, for me, is like one part of the game series that I've never played at all.
No, I never touched that game. It was a 3DS game, and I've never owned a DS or a 3DS or a 3DS XL. And up until recently, the only way I played the Pokemon games on those platforms was through emulators. So I never actually owned one. And playing it on like a tablet is a real ball ache. You have to get the right emulator and the right ROMs. But I never went out and bought one until recently, where my girlfriend happens to have one in a drawer buried. And in these last year or so, where my main solace in life throughout all of this pandemic has been, at least there's Pokemon. At least that makes me happy. And she goes, "Oh, I've got a DS in the cupboard if you want to play one." I was like, "What? I've given 120 hours of my life to Sword and Shield, and I've kind of tapped that dry. Why didn't you bring this up sooner?" So I finally go back and play a bit of Pokemon Sun, and I think I'm just going to keep going backwards and backwards. But Detective Pikachu, I think I kind of saw it at the game, that is, as a bit of a gimmick that I was not interested in, like Pokemon Snap and these other kind of things where if it doesn't involve being a trainer, I'm not really that interested.
Well, the new Pokemon Snap coming out on the Switch is something that I am super excited for. Because growing up as a kid, I didn't have an N64. And there were all the Pokemon games on the N64 that looked amazing. Like Pokemon Colosseum or Pokemon Snap. Like all of these games, I could only dream about how amazing they were, but could never play because I didn't have the console and I didn't know anybody who did. So for me, Detective Pikachu is kind of within that list of like expanded Pokemon games outside of the regular ones that I never had the chance to play. But when Pokemon Snap comes out, I think I will get it for the DS. I only have like not the DS, sorry, the Switch. I only have like 3 Switch games.
I don't get it. I don't see, like I did have the N64 and I had Pokemon Stadium. Because having played...
Stadium, yes.
Yeah, because I think Colosseum might have been the GameCube. But, having played like Red and Blue and Yellow to absolute death as a kid, when I kind of skipped the second generation kind of games on the Game Boy Advance and whatever they were on. And so when it came to Pokemon Stadium being a thing, I was like, wow! Like all my dreams realised in 3D. And it turns out the game isn't all that fun, and the actual fun part of Pokemon Stadium was the little mini games you could do. Like, the one was One was you're a lickitung in a sushi restaurant, and you've got to eat all the different types of sushi, and different types of sushi give you different points, and you're racing against everyone to try and get the best ones. That was great fun. That was it. That was good. But I don't get Snap. Like, I don't get taking pictures. Like, in Pokemon Sun and Moon, there's a feature where you can use your Poke Finder and to take pictures at certain places. So that's nice, I guess. Oh, well, look, there's a Pikachu behind a wall. Can I get it? It doesn't seem to be there when I'm not in the Poke Finder. So what's the point? Fuck your camera games.
I think what you touched on with Stadium there is actually a fantastic introduction into the movie. Because for years, what we always discussed was like the dream Pokemon game for us would have been something like a Fallout, a Bethesda-esque world where
Skyrim with Pokemon.
Yeah, you walk through and oh my god, there's which with Sword and Shield we've kind of had some more of that idea. It's kind of being realised. But then we get Detective Pikachu, which is really like the first live-action Pokemon movie. And they're bringing over all of those ideas, all of that nostalgia, all of those things that we'd spoken about, that we dreamt of. Like, can you imagine what it would be like to see them in the real world? And like Deviant Art and like all of these like fan art websites have for decades been covered in like, oh, and if a Charmander was real, it would look like this, and it'd have scales, and they're always like these ugly, horrible monstrosities. And Detective Pikachu is kind of bringing over all of those ideas, all of those things that we'd spoken about before. So what did you think of the world that they created in this, but what if Pokemon were real kind of thing?
I was so excited. I loved it. And there aren't many games. Games. I'm still on the games. There aren't many movies that take from video games or other kind of property, especially nostalgic stuff from childhood, when you see them realised in live action or you see them realised in a Hollywood movie. There aren't many instances where I've been left going, they've done it so well, and I wish I was there. And it's just like when I was a kid playing the games or watching the anime and wishing that I was on these adventures with these characters. They found a really cool way of melding real life with the Pokemon world. I felt there are a few particular Pokemon designs and trying to make them look more realistic that I didn't quite like. It didn't sit right with me, but I ended up forgiving it for most of them being fine, and the whole city itself, Rhyme City, being kind of everything that I probably would have been proud if it was my job to make this movie. I would have been well proud of the city that they made, and a lot of the wild areas too. Actually,
yeah. I think you make a really good point about the ones that just look kind of not perfect, but as close to perfect as you can imagine it being at this point. Whereas like Mewtwo, for example, like that's Mewtwo. That's not like a what if Mewtwo was real. Like, that's fucking Mewtwo.
The only thing I didn't like about Mewtwo is he had a mouth. And
right.
It didn't bother me when he was just floating around being Mewtwo because he was psychic and he was speaking without moving his mouth. And I was like, perfect. Yep, that's absolutely great. I even like his voice. Everything's right. And then at the end of the movie where he's inhabited by Bill Nighy's character and he's actually speaking with his mouth moving and flapping, you see his teeth. I was like, no. We don't need that. Yeah. And a lot of my little bugbears were like that. Like, yeah, I mean, I get why you've done a lot of this, but just I wouldn't have done that exactly. Okay. But there were plenty where I was like Greninja, like it looked exactly as you would hope Greninja would look. Then Psyduck looked a little bit weird and fluffy, and
they've given him feathers because he's that kind of, he has to be a duck, so he has to look like a duck. Yeah. But because we're used to these models of them, or these cartoon versions where he's just like yellow shapes, essentially, it's kind of like, well, why does he have that? And even Pikachu a little bit, where it's like, look, he's fluffy.
Yeah, and the Gen 1 starters looked a little bit weird for me. The Charmander, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, they looked a bit like a turtle and a lizard and a weird little thing. Oh, and a lot of the sound, when there's a scene, we're just jumping all over the movie here.
No, that's
By
right,
the way, we will get on to why this is a daddy issues movie, I'm sure, eventually. Give it 20 minutes. We'll do some bullshitting first. But there's a scene where a whole bunch of Bulbasaur come along, and I'm expecting Bulbasaur like that kind. And they have the same voices as they would in the anime, but they don't have cutesy little squeaky voices. And that, again, I was like, well, we already know what it sounds like, so why are you changing that when Pikachu, when he's not Ryan Reynolds, sounds like Pika Pika from the cartoon?
Yeah, it's
So
the same. It's the same voice actress. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
I read that too. That's really cool. They brought the same voice actress back.
Yeah, I think that they had to do that because Pikachu is the iconic one, right? And so everyone knows what Pikachu sounds like. Pikachu has to sound like that. Whereas the other ones, they can try and do more of this realistic sort of thing. But as a big ghost type fan, ghost type Pokemon are my jam. Like Gengar for me was a little bit weird.
I definitely agree with you. Yeah, that's one of those that especially because I thought the Charizard design looked cool. It looked really great.
Really awesome.
And then the way they did Gengar was not to my taste either.
Yeah, but again, it's like trying to bring these things into real life. There's so many imaginative. Like I can have a critique in which I say, Gengar didn't really look like how I would want it to look. However, it still looked fucking great. And like I think another good example is their use of Ditto within the movie, where they've enhanced this Ditto and so it can turn into people, it can shapeshift, that kind of thing. We're not doing any story beats or anything for the moment. So, but the person that they're impersonating takes off their sunglasses and it's got the Ditto eyes, and it's like it's just such a great use of, and it's like the kind of thing that we used to bandy around with, like the dark. What if you were going to do a Pokemon story and it was dark and like you'd wear like Ditto's like a Mission Impossible style face mask, right? So you're trying to infiltrate a building and you put a Ditto on your face to like to get through the DNA scan or whatever, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they've taken a real imaginative use of them, and it's great. You see like the police officers walking around with Growliths just like they'd have in the game, and it feels like a realized Pokemon world, which is, that in itself is a masterpiece achievement. And also that all of the actors take it so seriously. Nobody there is like, this is what is this dumb Pokemon movie?
Even Bill Nye. He's into it. And we'll go into more detail, but Justice Smith, the lead character, he fucking kills it. He really cares.
He's also the guy from Jurassic World, right?
Fallen Kingdom, yeah. Where they took the two white kids out and replaced them with a slightly more diverse cast.
Yeah. See, when I saw Fallen Kingdom, I thought so I saw that before I saw Detective Pikachu. And I was like, oh man, it's just this guy is just if this is what he's like in the world of CGI monsters. I didn't think his performance was so good in Fallen Kingdom, but I didn't think Fallen Kingdom was very good anyway. So I was really quite hesitant about when he has to interact with the CGI character constantly, is he going to be able to carry it? And he does. He's great. He's great.
It's so good. A lot of the emotional beats that he has to carry on his own because he is acting opposite an electric mouse. He completely sells it. Like, it's so good, really affecting. So good on all of them really, because it must be. I imagine most of this is like a lot of green screen work and acting opposite like tennis balls on sticks or whatever it is they do these days. But they all buy into it.
Yeah. Before we jump into the daddy issues elements of it, I just wanted to bring up, because this is a Warner Brothers legendary production. Yes. And this week I've watched both of us have watched 3 Warner Brothers movies this week. We watched Zack Snyder's Justice League. We watched Godzilla vs. King Kong, which we watched together.
Yeah.
And we watched Detective Pikachu. Ken Watanabe appeared in two out of the 3 movies. Both of those movies were Warner Brothers and legendary. I don't think the Justice League was legendary. I think it was whatever Zack Snyder's production.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Probably Syncope were involved, Christopher Nolan's production company. But but with this, I think Warner Brothers came in right at the end as distributors. So this is a legendary production, but Warner Brothers, I think Universal were initially supposed to distribute it, but they pulled out, and then Warner Brothers swooped in.
Right. And I've just got to throw this out there. If I'm Warner Brothers, I want Legendary involved in everything that I'm doing. Because we watched 3 Warner Brothers movies. One of them was a super dark, serious imagination of what if superheroes were real. The next one was a super stupid, over-the-top, what if Godzilla and King Kong were real. And then the last one was a really fun, crazy, what if Pokemon were real. And all three of them are these kind of taking things from childhood or things, initially meant for younger audiences, that kind of thing. Then updating them into modern context, and then also a realistic, in air quotes, a realistic context. And I had an absolute fucking blast with Detective Pikachu and Godzilla versus King Kong. Like, they were just so much fun. Whereas Zack Snyder's Justice League, like, it's a better movie than the original Justice League movie, but it's not fun. I don't think anyone watched that and went, well, that was really fun. you might have come away from it going, oh, that really made me... No, you didn't come away from it thinking, oh, that really made me think. What would you come away from that thinking? That was really long.
I guess if you're watching it from a critical comparison point of view, having seen the original cut, you would come away from it thinking, how did that compare to the original cut? Were all the changes necessary? Are they better?
Yeah.
Was the reshoots necessary or better? Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it was kind of... That Zack Snyder's Justice League almost isn't a movie for entertainment purposes at all. It's like it's a completely... what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of a critical exercise.
Yes, it's an experimental art project.
Yeah, well, from the production's point of view, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it kind of should be viewed as such. Whereas, like, Pokemon, Godzilla vs. King Kong, I had the absolute best week watching. Like that was just awesome. Just so... Yesterday, me and my mum watched a movie about Tom Hanks as a cowboy trying to get a young girl back to her family after she'd been raised by Native Americans.
Oh yeah, I've seen a trailer for that.
Yeah, it was really good. It was a really good movie. Then we watched Tom Hanks in the Da Vinci Code straight after because it just happened to be on TV. It was like a Tom Hanks double bill. And neither of those were particularly fun. But Tom Hanks was great in both because he's Tom Hanks. But neither movie was particularly fun. The cowboy movie was really good, but not like a fun watch. And all I could think was, I'd rather go and watch Detective Pikachu.
Yeah,
because it's just fun.
That's just what you need.
Yeah,
with Godzilla versus King Kong, it didn't take itself seriously. It was just complete popcorn fun, and I'll admit, throughout a lot of that, I was kind of rubbing my temples, going, "Oh, this is so dumb," but it wasn't trying to be anything more than it was. But yeah, Detective Pikachu, I'm so glad that you enjoyed it, because I was really afraid that I was going to come in and be like, it was so much fun. Like, all the little bugaboos are easily forgiven because the whole world is a great place to be, and the story was decent, and whatever, all the action was fun. And then I expected you to come in and go, but what about all the shit bits?
No, see,
and make me go, oh, but I liked it.
So I saw it in the cinema when it came out.
Did you really? Oh, I didn't realise. Yeah. Sorry, I've never seen it. This is my first.
Oh, really? This is your first time?
For the first time, yeah.
Oh, wow. I saw it in the cinema with my ex-girlfriend and her best friend and her ex-boyfriend. The Detective Pikachu, curse for relationships. But
I'm glad I watched it on my own then.
Yeah. But we went to see it, and I was the only person who was a fan of Pokemon, and I was the only person who enjoyed it. And partway through, it got to the bit where the Torterras, the big turtles with the thing, they start to come apart at the mountains or whatever.
Oh, the giant ones, yeah.
Yeah, the giant ones. And my ex's best friend kind of leaned across to her and went, this movie's so stupid. And that ruined the thing for me. Because then I knew that I had been enjoying it up to that point. But now her friend was, like, not on board. My viewing experience was then kind of hampered by the fact I was then concerned about whether or not somebody else was, as we've spoken about before.
I hate that feeling.
Yeah, but watching this rewatch on my own as a lonely, now single man who lies in bed and cries every night, I had a blast.
Maybe you needed this in your life today.
I did. This week I needed Godzilla vs. King Kong, and I needed Detective Pikachu, and they were both on point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
actually, I should say, like, I was interested in this film. This might have been a question you asked me 10 minutes ago, and I don't think I really answered it. But when this film was first announced, or the trailer was first released, I went, Detective Pikachu. They're doing a Pokemon movie, and it's going to be Detective Pikachu. All right, I guess. I mean, it makes sense to make, if you're going to go live action, you've got to put Pikachu front and center because he's the icon, the star, and for marketing purposes, that makes sense to me. And the trailer actually, I kind of went, oh, like I like what this looks like, what they're doing. But then it's been like 2 years and I haven't watched it. It just never, I never felt a real urge to go there. And even like I said, this last year or so, Pokemon has been my jam. That's been all I've been doing. I've just been playing Pokemon, and you talked about like DeviantArt, fan art stuff. I've been writing Pokemon fan fiction, and that's all I've really been thinking about. And yet I hadn't watched this movie yet. And when you suggested this as like, isn't this Detective Pikachu a father-son story? I was like, oh my god! Like, I can't believe this hasn't come to me before, and I can't believe I've not even pursued this. I've been sat there watching season 2 of the anime like every morning, just trying to get through it. And there's like 7 episodes between Ash going, it's almost the Pokemon League, and then and then him actually going. I'm like, come on, man, get your fucking
stop fucking around with that Sandshrew and get there.
yeah. Well, he just fucks around in Pallet Town for like 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Anyway, so yeah, it's surprising to me in retrospect that I didn't watch this sooner, and I think partly it's because I wasn't expecting it to be any good. Really, I was just a bit worried, and my preconceptions of it were, I really like the idea, and I'm glad they've done it, but I really wish they hadn't hired Hugh Jackman. I'm getting ahead of myself here. They haven't hired Ryan Reynolds, because as much as I like Ryan Reynolds, I think he's really fun, one of my favourite people in Hollywood. Getting him to do the voice, like to be a faceless character doing voice acting, was too close to Deadpool for me. Mm-hmm. We see like so much of the Deadpool movies is just basically what could be a CGI man, with Ryan Reynolds doing a voice in a booth because we can't see his face. And I thought it was really going to feel like the same thing, and I wouldn't be able to see beyond the fact that it's Ryan Reynolds' voice. But when watching it today, what I actually thought was, Ryan Reynolds is a fucking brilliant voice actor. Mm. Like, he gets across so much, and he's very talented, and you can hear a lot of the ad-libs and stuff, which we know he's great at, and it really actually worked.
Yeah.
And I wasn't just thinking, well, I suppose I was thinking, that's Ryan Reynolds, and I wasn't, as opposed to going, look at Detective Pikachu running around. But some reason I didn't mind it.
Do you know what I think?
It does such a good job.
The key to that was that we, in all of like the flashbacks and holographic flashbacks, we never see the face of Justice Smith's father at that point. It's not until the very end we see the face of his father. And then it's like, oh!
Yeah, and it wasn't until the very end when he was about to be, like the truth of what has gone on with Pikachu and why he can talk and everything was being revealed, that I went, oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't really sure. You know what I'm like. I don't really like to think ahead. I like to just wait for the surprises to hit me and not ruin them for myself.
Yeah.
So I was kind of going, oh, wonder if it's going to be like some weird bit of dumb stunt casting like Johnny Depp in Fantastic Beasts, or whether it'll be someone completely unrecognizable. But again, I didn't think about it too deeply. But as you get closer to the reveal, you're like, of course it's going to be him. And we'd seen that Justice Smith's mum was African American, and how he looks, like you're like, well, that makes sense. I would buy that.
Yeah.
And then when Ryan Reynolds steps out, spoiler alert, at the end as Justice Smith's dad, I was like, yeah, like I completely get this. I completely buy this. This is absolutely right.
I seem to remember the cinema in Moscow going, "Hey!" when Ryan Reynolds appeared.
And you were the only one, right?
No, yeah, I was the only one the other people in the cinema were happy to see Ryan Reynolds when he appeared, because we've been listening to him the whole time. And then he appears on screen, and everyone was kind of like, "Yay, it's Ryan Reynolds!"
Yeah, and actually, I think that actually makes the fact that Ryan Reynolds is Detective Pikachu the whole time better.
It does.
Like it pays it off properly.
Yes.
Like if it was just, it would have felt like stunt casting if there was no reason for Ryan Reynolds to be Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
But it worked.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the miracle of this movie, is that it works.
Yeah.
Right? And that is like, I was saying to someone, we're going to talk about Detective Pikachu, and I was saying, like, it's just a solid, fun movie. And I'm just going to throw this in as we jump into the daddy issue stuff. This is the movie that actually brought tears to my eyes with father-son stuff. More than like the hardcore, heartbreaking like Road to Perdition or like the super tough emotional ones we've discussed. Detective Pikachu is the one at the end where I was like, it's his dad, and his dad's Ryan Reynolds.
Is this your real steal?
Yeah, that was my real steal. Yeah, real steal? No, it didn't quite get me like that.
Man.
But Detective Pikachu, I was like, whew, I got a little teary as
That's great. No, I think I definitely got tugged at the heartstrings a few times as well.
Yeah. Okay, so father and son relationships, the daddy issues in that. Why is this a daddy issues movie, Dave?
Well, let's talk about our protagonist, Tim, as played by Justice Smith, who is a bit of a loner, who lives in a small town raised by his grandma. His mum had died when he was younger, about 11 years old, I think he says. He does have a dad, but his dad is a detective in the big city, and we don't really know anything about him until Tim gets a phone call or voicemail saying there's been an accident, and the reveal is his dad has been killed in an accident, and he has to go to the big city to get his stuff and basically just draw a line under that relationship, because there hasn't really been much of one for most of his life at this point. I think he's 21, isn't he? Because he's 21 at this point. So since his mum died, he hasn't really known his dad. So there is the foundation of one of our main daddy issue story in this. There is another one that's kind of a bit of a subcurrent, doesn't really go far, but there is more than one.
Yeah. If the movie had an extra 10 minutes or 20 minutes, that would be like the Bill Nye father-son relationship. I don't know the name of the actor that plays his son.
No, like he was a weird like misnomer. I was like, who the hell is this guy? I've never seen him before in anything. And in looking him up, all I really I recognise from his credits is about 7 or so of the typical English soap operas that every British actor probably does.
Oh, here we go. He's in Casualty. He was in The Bill, EastEnders, Holby
City, Doctors. Yeah. He's done them all.
Yeah. Then he was in Modern Family. At some point, he moved to America. He's in Modern Family. He's in a few things. He's in all the shows that I haven't seen. He's one of those kind of guys.
He's probably on his way up to being in more dramatic stuff, but you got to make make that journey.
Yeah, Chris Gere. Yeah, Chris Gere and Bill Nye. Yeah, I would be interested to see more of their relationship, because that does kind of just get brushed over quickly as we move forward. He's the red herring. He's called Roger Clifford, but really he's Roger Herring.
Yeah,
basically within this.
Roger Herring.
But yeah, so we get that kind of thing, as you're saying, with Tim, where he's kind of estranged from his father. He's lived with his grandma. His father works in the city as a detective with the Rhyme City. Rhyme City is a relatively new city. It's been built as like a beacon for a new stage in the relationships between humans and Pokemon. A place where there's no trainers. It's just you have your partners. Humans and Pokemon live there as equals.
It's like this isn't the only parallel, but it's like Zootopia.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, where prey and predator animals live side by side in harmony, and it's a similar thing where. And I think I was reading that it was the Pokemon Company's idea for Rhyme City to be this way. There's no battling, there's no Pokeballs, no trainers. Because I'll read you the quote. It says they wish to show a different and more elevated relationship between Pokemon and people. Interestingly, they were also very protective of Ash Ketchum and forbade any reference to him being made, going as far as even forbidding Tim to wear a cap.
See, that's really interesting, because one of the things I wanted to mention to you was how interesting I thought it was that it was kind of a deliberate sequel to Pokemon in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like one of the main ones was when they introduced Mewtwo and say, "Oh, Mewtwo escaped from the Kanto region 20 years ago," and you're like, "Oh my god!" Like I know what happened
20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago, which was like I think the year 2000 or like. Was when the Pokemon movie came out. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah. It was 99, and in Japan it came out in 98. So like, give or take.
Right. Okay. So yes, it works somewhere within this timeline. But I really like that as like this is a continuation of the Pokemon world that you know, right? That you are familiar with. We're not saying this is the lab where Mewtwo was created, and this is like that story from a different perspective.
It's not retreading
like,
the same thing.
No, it's like, do you remember when you went to the cinema to see the movie with Mewtwo when you were a kid?
I do.
Now you have children of your own. Take them to see this new one with Mewtwo in it again, and it's kind of you're bringing your nostalgia along with you. It's not like a soft reboot. It's not a reboot at all. It's not even really a sequel. It's just a kind of a continuation in some ways, like a handing out. Yeah, and I thought that was really a really interesting, cool way for it to go.
Yeah, me too. Because they don't need to make any stronger reference than that. It's just something that I didn't even actually pick up on until I was reading about it afterwards. That just lets those fans from 20 years ago know that this is the same Pokemon that you loved. There are Pokemon in this movie that weren't invented at the time of that movie 20 years ago, but hopefully you've taken that fandom throughout the eras. And I think I would put it out there that most Pokemon fans are people who played the games going back however far, but have kept with it and they've kept coming back. I think Pokemon is a weird thing that kind of sticks with you. And I'm a 33-year-old man who was writing Pokemon fan fiction because I love it so much.
I think a lot of it is that same thing with Animal Crossing last year, where Animal Crossing, people who had never played it like me, bought it and played it for hours because the world had become so unmanageable and so horrible, and life had been so turned upside down that sometimes what you needed to do was sit there for a few hours, listen to calming music, and live on an island where
Paradise,
just like and just let it go. And that's kind of what Pokemon does as well, right? Like the battling is, I think, one of the reasons that you were saying the stadium is like didn't really work for you. The battling is only a small part of the adventure. It's part of the adventure, but also you care and bond with the Pokemon that you train and
you choose. That's why that's part of the thing that I love about there being such a massive Pokedex now. Because when I haven't, like I said, I haven't really picked up many of the games throughout the DS era, apart from like years later when ROMs were available and emulators. So, and I was kind of always a bit of a original 151 for life. Every other generation since is shit. But then what I like about the newer generation of games that includes some of the OG Pokemon is that you really have the choice about what Pokemon you use. And as you go through area to area, it's just a case of, obviously, if you're a completionist, then you'll build a balanced team and find the best ones that work for your style. But really, it's about just the ones that you like and the ones you think are cool, and you'll invest the time and the training into the ones that you like the most, so that they are stronger and more powerful and will get you further in the game. But because you like them the most, and that's what I think that's great. And that's part of what's so what's the word, appealing to so many people is there are so many to choose from, and at least some of the Pokemon will appeal to somebody. Like my girlfriend has never been into, it's kind of a reversal of the Animal Crossing, like you said. I'd never played Animal Crossing before in my life, and it wasn't until COVID hit and I bought Animal Crossing for my girlfriend, and she played it constantly, especially during the hardest times when things were really challenging, like you said, and it really helped her. And I would watch her play, and eventually I joined in, and it is fun and it is relaxing. The reverse has happened now, where she's watched me play Pokemon so much that she's noticed a few different Pokemon that she finds cool or cute, and it's like, you know what, like, yeah, I get it. I want to spend time with these creatures and go through that process. And now she's really into the games, and as I mentioned to you before pod, she's making me little trinkets out of clay, and she's cross stitching me a Cubone onto one of my jumpers. And, it's just, it appeals to such a massive array of people. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of another thing we were talking about. We're veering off from the movie, so we'll come back to it. But we were having a discussion the other day of, you've got some Pokemon on the DS, so you'd like to get to the Switch, vice versa. How can we get them across different accounts? And it's kind of like we were saying how the joy of it is you have your experience with them. But then also you can The beauty of, you have sword, I have shield. Well, what do you not have? What can we trade? Oh, I have a Kadabra that I want to evolve. Tag me in. I've got a Haunter. Let's do this. And it's a collaborative joy that you can have. And yes, you can fight against other people. But I don't think I've ever really fought against another person with Pokemon. I've always traded with them to enhance that, but it's never been about, your Pokemon versus my Pokemon. It's always like, oh my god, your team's so cool. Why did you, and kind of go from there.
It's so personal.
Yeah,
so unique. Yeah, and I think what we were talking about was that how there was like this, and I sound like a noob even though I've been playing Pokemon for 20 years, but not consistently. So the Pokemon Bank, Pokemon Home trading thing is a bit alien and new to me, but there is like a marketplace where you can go. I've got a Kadabra, or any randomer can go like, yeah, I'll trade you that, and I'll trade you it back, and there you go. And I don't really, and again, I sound old, but I don't really like that part of it. What I like about it is what you were saying is that, and what it was for me when I was a kid was that I had Pokemon Blue, my brother had Pokemon Red, and we play it simultaneously, and then we trade to do things like that to evolve those ones that can only evolve via trading. And me and my friends would start up a bunch of games and restart so that we could, each of us, have all three starters in our team at the same time. And it was a collaborative thing, and it was about sharing, and you had to grind for it, and it paid off in the end because it was such a cool thing to do. And I don't really want to go onto the internet and go, any random stranger who's online right now, help me out.
Yeah, I want to send me Mewtwo.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to fill out my Pokedex that way. I want to do it with you, and I want to do it with my girlfriend and anyone else I know who's into it. I want to. It almost kind of, especially now when we're so detached from each other, it's a great way of remotely keep spending time with people.
Yeah.
God, all we're doing right now is talking about how great Pokemon is.
I mean, to be honest, the people who have clicked on this are not really here to listen to us talk about father and son relationships. But while I mentioned that, Tim Goodman goes to the city after finding out that his father has seemingly died. Estranged, they haven't seen each other in years. Tim always wanted to be a Pokemon trainer himself. That was like his childhood ambition. But after his mother's death, he lost that, and he kind of lost contact with his father because his father dove into his work as a detective, and they just kind of lost touch with each other, and Tim lost faith with himself and who he was. And he always knew a lot about Pokemon from his childhood, but he just couldn't see it through after that. I think when we meet him, he's like an insurance.
Yeah, he's like a junior insurance advisor or something.
Yeah,
and he has a very enthusiastic friend who I wish was in it more, because he's Dopinder from Deadpool. There's a few Deadpool links in this movie actually. Who's like, come on, man! And you don't really realize at the time, but this is a world or a time where everyone has a partner Pokemon. It's just what you do. And which I kind of like. It's not like the games where you get a team of 6 and you have 100 in your Pokebox or whatever. Mm-hmm. You have a partner. You have a companion. And Tim seems to be the only one who doesn't have one. He's just like not interested. And his friend Jack goes, "I found you the perfect one for you," and it's a Cubone that's crying in a field. And he's like, "Cubone, really?" It's like, "Yeah, it's a loner." And he's like, "Oh, okay, just like me. Very good, very clever." And yeah, I was psyched at the very first Pokemon we see in detail in this movie. It was one of my favourites.
Yeah, I was super psyched to see Cubone, but also it's a really interesting thematic choice, because the reason that Cubone cries is because its mother is dead. And they touch upon it at the beginning and say, a crying lonely Pokemon wearing the skull of its dead mother. Yeah, that sounds like fun. But it's kind of like, that's exactly your character, Tim. Your whole character is mourning the loss of your mother that you could never get over. And there's a Cubone. And I wish that in some way the Cubone could have carried through. So at the end, he does end up with that kind of thing as his partner. At the end of the movie, he doesn't end up with a partner as such. Because he forms that bond with his father and with Pikachu. And you could kind of imagine that if they were going to do a sequel, it would be him finding a Pokemon for himself, maybe even a little Pikachu of his own or something, I don't know. But it didn't seem like there was a connection between Tim and the Pikachu. Right, or like there was nothing special about Pikachu that related to his character. It was his father was, was the soul of that Pikachu.
Yeah, and that was
what the
his
connection
his
was. Yeah.
it was his dad's partner. Yeah, so there was never any chance that Tim and Pikachu were going to become partners in the long term. But
Yeah. Okay, so he moves to the city to collect his father's things, and then finds out there might be a little bit more going on than it seems at first. He meets with Ken Watanabe once again, just being amazing in everything he's in. Ken Watanabe is one of the best at being sincere for things that make no sense.
Are you thinking of Inception? And I just watched me and my girlfriend started watching Batman Begins because she's never seen it the other night, and then she fell asleep, so we had to stop. But yeah, again, like he's talking about the League of Shadows and stuff, and he's this super serious, like decades trained Japanese actor who I think it was Christopher Nolan kind of brought him into Hollywood. And yeah, you're exactly right. He just talks what is mostly nonsense in a language that he had not known for very long, but completely sells it.
Yeah, he's brilliant. So he ends up, after meeting Ken Watanabe, and Ken Watanabe says, "Your father was a good man, a great detective, one of the best." And Tim's like, "Whatever, I don't even care about my dad. I'm just here to get the boxes and sign the paperwork, cross the T's and dot the I's on his death certificate."
Jeez.
I know, it's pretty grim. But Tim
the way you tell it, yeah.
Tim goes to his father's house, and when he's there, accidentally opens a vial of what is called R.
Right? Yeah, compound R.
Compound R,
which is
kind
the
of a purple gas.
Yeah, what's the phrase? This is the unobtainium, the Deus Ex Machina, the little MacGuffin.
MacGuffin. Yeah. This is your Tesseract. It's it's your mother box. It's your your Mecha Godzilla. It's your.
You were so excited for Mecha Godzilla.
We shouldn't even say that.
Oh, spoiler again.
Oh no, maybe we have to edit that out.
I'll bleep it. And then we'll explain what I bleeped. It's not a swear word, it's just a spoiler for a movie we're not talking about.
Yeah. But you keep bleep that and say, "Oh, you were so excited for bleep."
Yeah. Maybe I'll put it up on the screen saying, "These are spoilers," so we decided to remove it.
Yeah. And then in the apartment, he also comes across Detective Pikachu, who is an amnesiac Pikachu with the voice of Ryan Reynolds that nobody else can understand. Only Tim's the only one that can understand him. But the voice of Ryan Reynolds, who can't remember who he is, can't remember anything about himself, other than he's definitely a detective.
He feels it in his jellies.
In his jellies, yeah.
Yeah, and he's got his detective hat. And inside the detective hat is a little stitched label that says, "If lost, please return to Harry Goodman at this address." And that's why Pikachu's at that address at the same time. But yeah, he has no idea why he is, what he is, or who he is. He's just knows that he needs to find Harry.
Yeah, and then they're kind of on the case, right? And like Tim is reluctant at first, but then they start working together. Like it's one of those movies we don't have to go through beat by beat for plot, because the plot's not really the point. The adventure is the point. And I think the movie does a really great job of like taking you through the story, but showing you as much, like opening the Pokemon world up as you go through and seeing some more of the world, seeing some more of the Pokemon, how they interact with the world, but just generally making you feel for the characters and kind of understand them as you go through.
Yeah, and I mean we already touched on it, but and believing that the world that they all live in. Like obviously Tim is freaked the fuck out that this Pikachu can talk, and they get attacked. This gas thing, the unobtainium gas, affects Pokemon that are generally, the whole city is full of all docile Pokemon and people living together. But this is some gas that's just like Zootopia. This is another Zootropolis/Zootopia parallel. Just like that, it turns what would normally be docile animals into, they go savage, they go wild, they go berserker barrage. And Pikachu and Tim get attacked by a bunch of Apom that have gone apeshit. That was an accident. Oh, brilliant. I enjoyed that. And now I've completely lost. Oh, yeah. So then they escape the Apom, and Tim's trying to get all the other people on the street to be like, can you understand this Pikachu? It's saying words, and he seems insane to all the people that are around him because they're all like, what are you talking about? Pokemon are just like these things that we live with, but you can't understand each other. We just have this symbiotic relationship, and it's cool. And yeah, you totally buy that, or I totally buy that, and how crazy he seems to believe what he thinks he believes. Sorry, I made a shut the fuck up, Dave. You're not making any sense face.
If only,
just blathering.
If only we were on some kind of medium for which the point was to talk about things. That would be...
Well, you can talk too much.
No, absolutely not. No, I think all the points you made there are really true, and why the movie works. It works because we go down the street with the different restaurants, and there are people cooking all different kinds of food, and there are Pokemon alongside the chefs, like helping to put things together. And it just, you see things together, and you see people with their partner Pokemon, and I get it. It kind of makes sense. Like you see it, and you're like, that it just works. The movie just works.
There's something weird. Like I know that the His Dark Materials does a similar thing, and there's probably another one that I'm forgetting, but something really attractive, I think, obviously to audiences because these things are very popular, in having some kind of like animal creature companion that goes with you everywhere. Because the His Dark Materials thing definitely does it, where what they call it, whatever this kind of creature that it becomes your life companion is a kind of a magical connection, and
it's like the familiar, that kind of thing.
Something like that, where it takes a form of a different animal depending, and that reflects your personality. And I think with Lyra, the main character in that, I have not seen any of this stuff. I think I'm just remembering it from the first couple of chapters of the first book that I read once 10 years ago. That as you're young and as you're going through adolescence, that creature its form is malleable and it's constantly changing to reflect the fact that you're going through adolescence and you're figuring out who you are, and it's kind of a weird thing to do with figuring out who you are. And there's something great about having this little amazing magical thing that's your companion, it's your friend. Maybe it's just me. I am a big animal person, so I guess the idea of having something like I do now, having dogs, for example, as being your companion to go to explore the world with, and I think I'd much rather that than a person.
Well, anyone who's listened to another episode of this podcast will know that is the case for you, absolutely. But
where's my Cubone? Damn it.
Yeah, one of the reasons that works so well in this movie, in comparison to the His Dark Materials movies or TV shows, which I haven't touched. When I was a kid, I read all the books and I loved the books, but it works in the book because you have the time to fully explore that relationship in a way that in the movies, like, okay, we got 2 hours, we've kind of got to do that relationship, but then all of the other relationships as well, and it all kind of gets rushed over a little bit. Whereas with Pokemon, because the characters essentially only say their names, you go in there with your preconception of the Pokemon and then the Pokemon's appearance and behavior, and then that instantly gives you, we know that Ken Watanabe has the, what's it called, Snubble?
Yeah, the Snubble, yeah.
The Snubble. He's got a Snubble because it's a dog and he's a policeman and he's kind of hard-nosed and it's aggressive but it's loyal. And like that's kind of like speaking to his character. He's not an aggressive person, but we understand that he has what it takes. He's a determined person. And, when we know that he's got a good relationship with his Pokemon who's there to protect him. So we have like a level of respect for his character. Whereas when Lucy, who we haven't really spoken about yet, but she's kind of the love interest and a reporter who's also on the case, but she has a Psyduck, that tells us something else about her character and the way that her character acts. And because it only says Psy or Psyduck and then has headaches and is very anxious and has those moments, we don't have to go into a big in-depth analysis of, well, now why did you choose a Psyduck as your partner Pokemon? Right? It just keeps going, and we learn more about her and her character through that relationship, but it doesn't have to be a big... And then we met Lucy. Lucy was a young reporter who was hot to rise up the ranks and become the anchor at Pokemon news. Her
She
partner
could smell a
Psyduck.
story.
Yeah. We just need a few lines of like, oh, her partner Psyduck. That's quirky, right? She's a quirky character.
Yeah, I was wanting to bring that up because I think there's certainly an awful lot of that in the Pokemon world where the human's partner as a Pokemon or their choice of Pokemon does reflect some element of their personality or of their job. So often with the police characters, they have dog-like Pokemon, Growliths and Arcanines and stuff, and Snubbull. But I don't actually get the connection, or where the sense comes with Lucy having a Psyduck, unless it's less of a reflection of herself, but more like a counterbalance to herself.
I think if you were going to have like another 5-10 minutes, as we were saying, what you really need is at the end when she has that character moment of solving, of coming to her resolution, Psyduck evolves into Golduck. And that's one thing that the movie never did. Like, there's never an evolution of the Pokemon at the same time as a character evolution, which would kind of see that. And I know it's because it's Psyduck. Psyduck's fun. It's a funny character. Like, all the way through the Pokemon anime, Psyduck is always just there to be like, wah, wah, wah.
When I was a kid, like he was actually one of my favourites.
Yeah, he's classic Pokemon.
As watching it as an adult, I find him a bit more annoying. But as a kid, I was like, it looks like a little duck, and I've always liked the water types anyway, so he's got the water thing going on. But if you push him too far, he becomes like has some of the most powerful psychic attacks that exist. And it's really hard to actually do that in the game, even if you've tried it. But you can't make Psyduck that great before eventually I just gave up and evolved him because he was, you can't really do much with it. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting choice to use a Pokemon so forward in this movie when the same one had been used so much in the anime. When you've already got Pikachu with a young boy, well, I guess he's a young man in this, to then have your female character have a Psyduck, just as Misty did in the anime. Interesting choice, but I think it worked fine. And the scene where they're running away from all the Greninja and they're like, calm down, Psyduck, it's going to be okay, because they're all afraid he's going to blow up because Pikachu told them he's going to blow up if he gets too stressed. And then he's like, actually, no, wait, get stressed, get headache. I need a splitting headache right now. And then he does that whoop-boom attack. You're like, that was fucking cool. And it wipes him out as soon as he's used it because it's just so much of it takes so much energy. I get it. It worked for the story. It's just an interesting. I guess you get snobby nerds on the internet going, but they've already used Psyduck so much in the anime. Why can't they've got all 800 other ones to choose from?
It would have been interesting to see that kind of that evolution of a Pokemon.
Yes,
but but again, like Psyduck, kind of as you're saying, he is that funny character that people know and remember and love. Like, no one loves a Golduck.
Yeah.
No one's like, Golduck's my favourite Pokemon. Someone might say Psyduck, but no one is like, Golduck's my favourite Pokemon.
I'm sure they're best. But that's another thing about there being so many. I bet there at least one person in the world says that one of the Pokemon in the Pokédex is their favourite.
Yeah. Oh, what's your... All right, let's go for an obscure one then. What's your favourite obscure Pokemon?
I really like Scraggy.
Is Scraggy an electric cat?
No, Scraggy is like a fighting type. He's got like his skin flaps over his trousers keep falling down. He has to hold his trousers up. I really like him. And so when I first discovered him in Black and White, I was like, this little dude's awesome. I love him. And then you get to that nervous bit where I don't like to look ahead to see what they're going to evolve into or when. So when they finally evolved into Scrafty, I was like, oh god, don't be shit. And he's basically just bigger. Still has the trousers thing, which I found really funny. And he's got a rad mohawk. And I was like, okay, cool. Well done, Game Freak. Appreciate you not ruining this for me, because it happens enough times where you get really invested in the first evolutionary stage, and then they evolve up and you're like, shit. Like with Sword and Shield, I went for Grookey as my starter. Loved Grookey, really cute, really great. And then the second evolution, Thwackey, I was like, cool, still like you, got 2 sticks, awesome. And then when he evolves into the fucking gorilla thing, I can't remember what it's called because I very quickly boxed him after he did. Initially, I was like, it's a fucking gorilla, that's awesome. And then when I used him a few times, I was like, oh, but he's got this stupid drum thing. And I just, you've ruined it for me. I wish I could go back. Can I devolve? Can I go back to Thwackey? Bring back Thwackey. Yeah, it can. That's such an emotional roller coaster playing the Pokemon games.
I can tell you're emotional right now.
Especially if you can stay away from Bulbapedia as much as possible, you will you'll definitely go through a journey.
So we find out through the movie that this Compound R that, as you're saying, drives Pokemon Berserker Barrage, is actually linked to the disappearance of Tim's dad, who him and Pikachu are looking for, and they discover upon investigation that the R is a gas being drained from Mewtwo. Mewtwo was captured. It seems like it was captured by evil Chris Gear, the son who was in Holby City that we didn't know what else he was from.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was draining, and Rita Ora, I think, is the scientist.
Yeah, that was a little bit... That took me out of it for a second. I was like, is that Rita Ora?
I've seen her bum.
Have you seen her bum? Good for you. Did you come to your house?
I don't want to get Rita in trouble. But she was already in trouble for abusing Mewtwo. I don't want to tell her what she's been doing to me.
Yeah,
but
and then I was like, I'm pretty sure that's Rita Ora, and then a song of hers comes on the end credits. I was like, that was definitely Rita Ora. There you go.
Yeah.
There's the tie-in deal.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. So this Compound R that drives Pokemon Berserk, it's been sucked out of Mewtwo for nefarious purposes, and then the evil plan at the end is to release the Compound R onto the city, drive all the Pokemon Berserk, and then big twist, Bill Nye, it was the villain all along. His son Roger Herring was in fact the Red Herring, and we thought he was the baddie, but actually his father was the baddie, but we're supposed to think he's not because he's in a wheelchair, which is kind of weird. But it's like, oh, you're disabled, you couldn't possibly be the bad guy, which is like, that's awfully strange for a movie from a few years ago. But we get the point that Bill Nye wants to transcend his human form and take on the most powerful being on the planet, which is Mewtwo. And I'm still happy that they say Mewtwo is the most powerful Pokemon, because I hate it when they bring out a new legendary type and they're like, look, this one's got 27 arms, and he's like from the dawn of time, and so he's a god. I'm like, I just remember when Mewtwo was cool.
Yeah, I think Mewtwo for me goes far and beyond any legendary that's come out since. So he is the pinnacle of Pokemon's power as far as I'm concerned.
So yeah, Bill Nye psychically links himself to Mewtwo and is like, I'm Mewtwo now. And then starts bonding, like merging Pokemon and humans, and it's all revealed that what happened to Harry, to Tim's father, who we thought was dead, actually he was merged in the Pikachu. And that's why Pikachu talks with Ryan Reynolds' voice, because Ryan Reynolds is Tim's father and his soul was merged into Pikachu's body.
And we don't talk about why Tim didn't recognise his dad's voice coming out of a Pikachu for this entire movie. He's 21 years old, he's only not seen his dad for a few years, and yet he didn't recognise his dad's voice.
Yeah, I guess it has to be that's why they have to put in that estranged, he hasn't seen him for 10 years, 11 years, because then he could kind of forget what his dad looked like. And like, if you hadn't heard somebody's voice for like 10 years, especially when you were a kid, and then you were talking to somebody else and they had their voice, you might not think, you're that person I know with did you have plastic surgery to look like somebody else?
I guess I'd like to know what the official duration is, because I don't know why, but I was under the impression it was only like he'd seen him on and off throughout his teens or whatever,
right.
And it has been a few years with no contact. But yeah, if it has been since his mum died, or a year or two after that, he hasn't seen or heard from his dad, then yeah, okay, I'll accept that.
Yeah, and I think for what is a good movie, we get one of the worst moments of setup and payoff, where Pikachu says, Tim said that Volt Tackle was my best move, so that's what I'm going to use. At the end in the middle of the third act. That is like the worst setup and payoff I've seen in a movie for a while. But I don't care, because the movie was so charming and fine.
Yeah.
They needed to get Pikachu to use some moves, so they set up earlier on that Volt Tackle's his best move, so he uses it at the end. But they could have written that line better. It needed another go-over. It just needed a little tweak. There's a few lines a little bit like that, but that's just like a nitpicking from a script writing perspective, whereas like
Yeah.
the rest of the movie is just like it's just solid. It's a solid, good
Sure.
movie.
No, yeah, I agree. There are a few moments like that, but what I found throughout the first act, especially, they did an awful lot of show don't tell, where I thought this is really great because this is a moment in a script where you could have just had a character speak all the exposition, but instead you showed us something like the name thing stitched into Pikachu's hat, and I don't think there are some cool examples anyway that I can't think of right now where a lazier writer would have just gone and then he says this bit of information that's useful later, but instead they show us or don't even say it, but they just leave it sort of unanswered. It's implied, and that's great. It shows a bit of respect for your audience and shows that they weren't just making this for kids. Like, it isn't like an episode of the anime in any way. It's not. And if you've played the Pokemon games, you know how the dialogue goes in those, which can get a little bit. You press A as quick as you can because it doesn't really matter what they're saying, and it's written so badly that you're just like, oh, this doesn't matter. Fuck off. Don't care. Don't care. Don't care. It's not like that. It is written fairly well, except for, like you say, a few blips where they needed to get somewhere but didn't really take the time to get us there. Well, but there the setup scene you were talking about, that underground Pokemon battling place, I thought was a really, really cool scene. A bit Real Steel again with the underground
very Real Steel
cage fighting. But that made me like excited about what a Pokemon trainer really is, because you kind of take it for granted if you play the games, because every single one of the main series of games you are a Pokemon trainer, so it's kind of your job as the player, as the gamer, to know what the good moves are, to know all the type matchups, to know what levels things evolve, to know, maybe look ahead and see what the fucking Elite Four are going to have and get prepared for it or whatever. But I like the fact that in this world, especially in this city, in Rhyme City, where there is no battling, it's not allowed, there are no trainers, people treat their Pokemon just like companions, work colleagues. Charmander's putting his tail underneath the chef's wok so he can fry up some noodles or whatever. So when Tim comes out with your attacks are Quick Attack, Thunder Shock, something on something, and Volt Tackle, and he's like, what since when have you been a Pokemon trainer? It's like they kind of, that's all it was one couple of lines that made you go, oh, Pokemon trainers aren't everybody. You kind of forget that not everyone in the Pokemon world is an expert in all of the moves and is good at battling and whatnot, because you can play the games and walk through any town or walk through any route and you get accosted by everyone, and everyone's got Pokemon and everyone wants to fight you. And I like the idea that the whole world should have much better balance, and Pokemon training is not a career that everybody does. There is a whole world and a whole economy that has to exist with people just doing regular jobs. Like, Tim won't be the only insurance salesman in the world of Pokemon. And I think another quick bit of trivia regarding the Deadpool crossovers with Dopinder and obviously Ryan Reynolds. The guy, I've forgotten his name. Deadpool 2, when Deadpool's putting together X-Force, and there's just one bloke shows up who's got a mustache, who is just a guy. And I think his name's Tim, isn't it, Tim? I got Rob Delaney. Is it Rob Delaney? Yeah,
I think so.
There was a scene that ended up on the cutting room floor where Rob Delaney is one of Tim's colleagues at the insurance place. And
that's fun.
I mean, he's always good value, and I would love to have seen what his companion Pokemon would have been.
Yes.
But that's what makes me. That's why I wanted to write fan fiction about Pokemon, is because this world is just almost endless. Like, there are so many parallels with real world, but just imagine the world being as it is, but you just drop Pokemon around and it still would function, and there would still be nefarious groups who use Pokemon in unethical ways, and there would still be people who pursue Pokemon as a career, and there would be people who just have them as pets, and people who don't really care and just go about their business. And man, I wish it was real. No, wait, take it back. I don't wish it was real. I don't want everyone to have Pokemon. I want it for me. I want to just go to a magical place that's for some reason undiscovered on the globe, where there is Pokemon, and live there. That'd be okay.
Well, it's your birthday coming up,
and yours.
Well, but I'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, you've seen my top 10 list, so if any one of those is fine.
Okay. Well, let's kind of move forward to the end of the movie then, I guess, which is at the beginning. Tim's very resentful of his father, even though he chose not to live with him. The door was kind of always open for Tim, but he never really wanted to reconnect with his father. He kind of felt abandoned, and but through the movie they reconnect. They reconnect because the Pikachu knows, the Pikachu was Harry's partner, so he manages to find that relationship with his father through Pikachu, and then of course at the end, we see that his father was within Pikachu all along, so they have their own bond, their own friendship. How did you feel about that end scene when they're together? Because this is when I got a little bit choked up. Whereas it's a really nicely done cut where Tim's like, can you get my father out of this Pikachu? And Mewtwo puts his hand out. Pikachu starts to glow, separate, and then we fade to the train station. And then at the train station, Ryan Reynolds kind of appears, and that's our introduction to Ryan Reynolds as his dad. It's not like a thing where we see this whole, oh my god, it's Ryan Reynolds being born out of a Pikachu. It's like we skip that and cut forward.
Good decision, I feel.
Yeah, I thought it's really well executed, really well done. And when we see Ryan Reynolds, we know that's his dad. There's no, oh, who's this guy? Right?
Yeah, I suppose that's a good argument for why cast somebody so famous for the voices, that when he appears at the end, you immediately go, okay, you can put those two together, because no one doesn't know who Ryan Reynolds is.
Yeah. So I got pretty emotional at that point, because they've been on this journey together. They've really bonded, and it's bittersweet in that moment, because Tim has become really great friends with this Pikachu. And when Ryan Reynolds leaves, when his father leaves the Pikachu, he'll lose that friendship. He'll have two different relationships. He'll have the relationship with his father and with his father's Pikachu, but he'll have lost that connection with the two of them merged together. Because he's lost his now really his best friend, and he's gained his father and his father's Pokemon. But they are not, they are two separate beings. They are not the same as them, as the merging of the two.
Yeah,
and it's kind of sad. It's sad in that way.
It is sad, yeah, because the why Tim and Pikachu have to kind of work together at the beginning is they both need each other. Pikachu's on his own, Tim's on his own, and they have a mystery to solve. But by the end, Tim's the only one who's left alone. Pikachu has its partner, Harry, Tim's dad, back, and Tim's got his Pikachu back. Harry's got his Pikachu back. But yeah, so they have each other, and now Tim is the outlier. He's the third wheel. But yeah, I think what I really liked about that ending is that it's not like both characters have absorbed everything that they've done together. Both the human characters, I mean, have absorbed everything that they've done together. They remember everything that what happened, and the logically they should be really happy and have a relationship again, but it doesn't jump straight to that. It is a bit more human and a bit more reserved, and they're waiting at the train station so that Tim can go back to his little hometown. His dad gives him the ticket to get on the train, and they do a very curt handshake, and that's a slow moment, and then they go in for the big hug, and the big hug got to me. I was like, oh yeah, but then he's still about to leave. Tim is still about to go home to his gram, and then he turns around before he leaves and says, do you think I could stay with you for a bit longer? And yeah, there was this lovely, it's a bit of like stupid men and not being able to deal with their emotions thing, where both of them want to be together, but neither of them initially is willing to express themselves in any way. It's not until Tim turns around and says, can I stay? And his dad goes, yeah, actually, I'd love that. Please, thank you for saying it, because I don't think hard-nosed Detective Harry Goodman was going to say anything. They were just going to let him go, and the cycle could just continue. And it could be however many more years before they see each other, and the relationship will get estranged. But for one of them to take the step forward and be like, I want to spend time with you, can we do this? And then we have a fun, another big like sweet hug, and then the classic walking away from camera, bit of banter about coffee or whatever, and yeah, it's a sweet ending. But there's a part that I want to call back to actually earlier on in the movie, which is probably the first part of the film that really hit me. It's about halfway through. Actually, I've got it here. It's like, if anyone wants to go to the timestamp, it's about 45 minutes into the movie. Yeah, almost halfway through. This is where this takes place after Tim has first come to the city. He's read in the news that there's been a detective was killed in an accident, and he's had the phone call to say his dad's dead. He's already met Ken Watanabe once, and after which bumps into Pikachu, and Pikachu says Harry's not dead, and they go on try and unravel a few bits of the clues, and then they go back to Ken Watanabe, and there's this conspiracy, there's a mystery, we have to solve it, you have to help us. And Ken Watanabe very much treats it like I think he says, grief can take many forms, kind of thing. There's denial, and he's being sympathetic, but he doesn't believe Tim for a second. And then what does he say? Like, I didn't want to show you this, but I think it's important that you see it, because he's just trying to help Tim come to terms with the fact that his father is actually dead, because we haven't seen anything of that. We've seen no emotion from Tim about his dad's disappearance or his death at all. He gets the voicemail back in his hometown, just says to his mate, it's about, what does he say? Like, there's been an accident or something. I think that's all he says. Next thing we see him, he's on the train going to the city. He's not emotional then. He's just reading the paper, watching a video on the TV. Same thing when he met Ken Watanabe. He's just like, can I just have the keys to my dad's apartment? I don't really need your help. Just thanks. Bye. And it's here where Ken Watanabe shows him this surveillance video of the crash, the car crash. And he's like, there's no way that anyone could have survived this. Not even your dad. And it's not until this moment where Tim actually kind of emotionally comes to terms with the fact that his dad is gone. And there's this really sweet scene where him and Pikachu are sat outside and they have a bit of a heart-to-heart. And the line is, should have got on the train. And we kind of flash back to after Tim's dad had died, his mum had died, and he was meant to go live with his dad in the city, and he decides not to go. His Gram drops it. I keep calling her his Gram. I don't know. I think she's just called Gram in the movie. But his Gram drops him off at the station, and he's about to get on the Hogwarts Express, and he decides not to. He says, "No, I'm gonna. Can I stay? I don't want to go." And I think you're right. That's probably he probably hasn't seen his dad since that moment, when he was like 11, 12 years old. So once we see that kind of flashback, and Tim's like, if I had got on the train, maybe, I would have had a relationship with my father, essentially. And he tells the story to Pikachu and then repeats the line, should have got on the train. And it's like, boh. And he acts it so well. Like, he's really selling the emotion of this scene, and he gets the tears going. There's this great moment. It's such a man's emotion moment where he's sort of staring at the floor, talking quite monotone, clearly fighting something back, and then just it takes a word or a thought where he just can't hold it anymore. He just squints and then the tears come. I was like, that is fucking great man emotion acting. Well done, Justice Smith. Like, I completely get that moment where you're trying to really bare your soul, but you're also trying to be a man and not show any emotion, and then it doesn't flood out of you. You don't fall to the ground and wail like it's theatre. You just squeeze yourself, and just bits of that emotion fall from your face, and oh man, God, it was great. That scene could have been, take Pikachu out of it, and it could be in a high drama about a kid whose dad was gone missing and assumed dead, and then he finds out he's not really dead, but then that kind of second realization, or second what's the word I'm looking for?
The Act 2 hurdle.
Yeah, exactly, where someone really drills into it, like, there is no hope. The hope that you're holding on to right now, it's gone. And you have to come to terms with this. It's a better scene. I was going to say better scene than this film deserves, which is not true. It's a better scene than you would expect from a film like this.
Yeah, I think that is a lot of this movie and why it holds up. Is this movie is full of better scenes, like you're saying, better scenes than the movie Detective Pikachu. We should have it should have in it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that Godzilla King Kong didn't necessarily have, were those moments where, like, it's got a few of them with the deaf girl that the Kong does sign language with. It's got those moments there, but so much of it is dedicated to just absolute ridiculous nonsense. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have that same moment where you're kind of like, man, this movie's making me feel things. This Detective Pikachu movie is like making me tear up at the end of this. And that's, a sign that it's elevating itself above what you would normally expect it to do. And why it was worth waiting so many years to do this live action Pokemon movie. Because the effects were good enough to do it. They got a great cast. Like, they really invested in the story. Like, yeah, you've got your MacGuffins and, whatever. It's not perfect. But it's heartfelt and it just works. It's just, yeah. It would be very difficult to expect a better movie to have come out of this concept. And I think that... Is it the best video game movie adaptation?
Wow. That's a big question. I know it's the second highest grossing video game adaptation of all time.
Is it? What's the first one?
Would you like to guess?
It's not going to be Tomb Raider. I don't think that would do better than...
No. For reference, this film was made for... I think like 100 and something million. This was made for 150 million and made 433 million in the global box office.
Right, pretty good.
Yeah. So only one video game adaptation has done better, which was...
Am I going to feel really stupid for not thinking about it? Can you give me a hint on the either the platform or...
Oh, that'd be too giving away. Okay, so it was directed by Duncan Jones, son of
Warcraft.
David Bowie. There you go.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, of course, yeah. Warcraft did crazy money in China, of course.
Yeah.
But I never think of I always think of World of Warcraft, but I never think of Warcraft. But yeah, that makes sense. Right.
But yeah, is it the best video game adaptation of all time? I don't know. I can't think of many other good ones.
Normally they're trash.
Yeah.
And it's like Tomb Raider, even like the most recent Tomb Raider movie, like they tried, like they got a good actress, they chose like a solid plot, but the movie is like,
It was like it wasn't terrible, but I was like, that was a fun hour and a half. Like that's fine. There's no problem with it. But this is a better movie than that, I think, in terms of its heart and how well it's put together. The great thing about some of these trash versions, like you've said, is that they were made sincerely, but then turned out to be so silly that they were brilliant. Like the Jean-Claude Van Damme Street Fighter movie, which is garbage, but actually a great fun to watch if you don't take it seriously, which is kind of what it was intended to be. What do you reckon? Are you looking up some more?
I'm just going through, and it's like Silent Hill, the Hitman movies, like the Mortal Kombat movies, like Sonic, which is actually meant to be pretty good. But
I've heard that actually.
Yeah.
The Jim Carrey one. Yeah, I've not seen it, but my brother who has young children said that he didn't mind watching that when he thought it was actually quite fun. Max Payne, the Mark Wahlberg movie.
Oh, God. Like, obviously there's other Pokemon movies, but they're animated and like they're based off of the series, not based off of the games.
Yeah. In that way? Yeah. Did you see Assassin's Creed, Michael Fassbender?
No, I didn't, but I heard that it was not great.
Man, I thought that was such a letdown. I'm not a huge Assassin's Creed fan. I played the first few games, but it definitely has capacity for a movie world. But yeah, that film was a bit of a wank fest. And then one of the worst films I've ever seen, actually, was a video game adaptation, which was The Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time with Jake Gyllenhaal. That is almost unwatchably bad. It's I couldn't even put words to it. But yeah, no,
Well,
I'm looking at the list and I can't
in that
see
case,
anything
having
better.
not seen Sonic, I'm willing to put it up there. I reckon Detective Pikachu is the best video game movie as made so far.
I'm not seeing anything that could better it.
Yeah. If
No.
anyone listening to this has anything that they think actually, like the one of the Resident Evil movies, if you could, but it's not just about a movie being awesome, or that bit where she shot him through the head was just like in the game, right? Like that's kind of not. It's like, does it hold up as a movie? And the miracle of this is that it does. Detective Pikachu does hold up as a movie, and it does make you feel things, and that is, that's what makes it a great movie, not just a good adaptation.
Yeah.
Like, that's a separate question. Is it a good adaptation? Is a separate question to, is it a good movie? And like, yes, it's a good movie. So,
Definitely.
here we go, Dave. A question that we haven't asked in a while. How does this movie make you feel about your relationship with your father? How do you feel as a young Justice Smith with your dad stuck in the body of a Pokemon?
Oh, wow. Man, I wish that would be an amazing experience.
Well, because we know that your dad would have a Growlithe.
My dad probably would have a Growlithe, not only because he was a policeman, but also he's a dog person. So
Yeah,
I
that
could
just
definitely
makes
see that.
sense in my mind. Yeah, I can see that.
The only other... I can maybe see him with an unpheasant, because they live in the country and he's quite a fan of pheasants. What is the evolution of Deerling, the stag Pokemon? He could have one of those again because of the country attachments. But no, there isn't much. I mean, this is kind of a specific... It's kind of a bit like Jack Frost. Do you remember the Jack Frost, the Michael Keaton Snowman movie, where like, a boy and his dad get a second chance through magic, essentially, and the dad is in a body of something else and they can rebond and everything. But at the end of Jack Frost, he dies again. Spoiler alert. Except this time they have a chance to reconcile their issues and bond, and it's a more uplifting farewell.
This isn't the Jack Frost podcast.
I know we missed the chance to do it at Christmas as well. I was going to suggest it, but
if only Christmas came round again. But do you think, as a separate question,
okay,
because essentially the whole point of this podcast is that one of us, and I'm not saying who it is, has a problem connecting with their father historically and in evaluating the relationship at the moment. Do you think if the soul of your father was trapped inside a dog, like that movie, what's it called, with Gary Busey, where Gary Busey gets stuck inside a chihuahua?
I don't know, but that sounds great.
It's a real movie.
Sure.
Yeah, it definitely is. Do you think that you would have a chance, an easier time building a new relationship with your father if there was like a Detective Pikachu situation? Is that what you would need to move your relationship forward, or do you think there's still a chance to resolve these issues?
I mean, there's always an opportunity for that relationship to evolve, let's say, using the parlance of our times, without the need for a magical body swap movie.
For a Freaky Friday.
A Freaky Friday scenario. But I think this is a great... What's good about these movies is I think it's like a parallel to sometimes in order to mend relationships that you have to go through quite extreme circumstances. And, there have been plenty of like straight up dramas where in a strange... Like, I've not seen it. The Judge, Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Duvall, estranged father and son, and they're brought together by very tenuous and stressful circumstances. And I haven't seen it, but I'm going to say they probably help resolve some of their issues throughout it because they are forced together, and they have to go through steps, and they have to work together, and they have to unlock who each other really are and what each other's issues are with each other. So yeah, I can if this if this is your question, if my dad was trapped in the body of a Pokemon, and we had to try and figure out a way of getting him back. I'm sure that along that journey we would bond greater than we already are, which is we're still close. And, perhaps our relationship would be all the stronger for it by the end.
Do you know what? I think we found a solution to some of your daddy issues that doesn't require a Freaky Friday situation with a fictional electric mouse. Which is you need to go on a bro holiday. A proper hiking, camping, building a log cabin, starting fires, proper man's
day.
Well, journey.
Actually, thinking about it, something that we've me, him, and my brother have done before, which was a great time. We should do it again. Is we went clay pigeon shooting. We've done it twice. Once for my brother's stag do, and once without. And yeah, just having a bit of man time is a great way of bonding with your paternal figures. I recommend it to anyone else who might be. We need to say this film shouts out our podcast. Did you notice that?
No.
Pikachu says when they're talking to Bill Nighy or Junior, Bill Nighy Jr., he goes, "You can't have daddy issues without a daddy." And I was kind of like, he said it. So I felt vindicated in us choosing this movie because they even say it in the movie that we're watching.
Well, we found that we don't have an intro for the podcast yet. So what you need to do is take the audio from that clip and then stick it on a beat, and that's going to be our intro.
That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll take the end credits music from this movie and loop Pikachu saying that on beat, and that can be our copyright free intro music.
Yeah, there must be other movies where they use the phrase daddy issues. We should just find them and then just put all the different lines from movies to say about daddy issues onto a beat of some kind. Yeah. That's a good introduction. Nailed it. We've nailed it, ladies and gentlemen. And it only took 27 episodes.
That was a snip. That's all it's taken. Come on. No time at all. And cut. Cut with Dom's toenail scissors? What were they?
Oh no, this is for mustache trimming.
Oh, I have the same ones, but your mustache is bushier than mine. You probably have to look after it.
No, I made the mistake of shaving off the beard because I saw the great movie with Chris Pine, and I was telling you about where Chris Pine has a fantastic mustache.
Oh yes,
but then after I shaved, I realised, you've gained a lot of weight, Dominic, and I need to grow that beard back because I look like a fucking Snorlax.
You keep throwing out all of these "you're so fat" cries for help, which is very unfounded. If anything,
that's why I've got the bigger scissors.
Was that to do your own lipo?
Yeah, pretty much. Look,
got a Hoover and some big scissors.
If I get this double chin I got going on here, and is that healthy? Is that
it's probably not. It's probably not healthy. No.
Oh, great. Then let's move on to awful therapy next, because I feel like maybe self-harm descriptions isn't right for the Detective Pikachu podcast.
Let's get it back on track and take it in the opposite direction. Can we just talk about the Mr. Mime scene?
Oh, of course. Because let's wrap it up with the Mr. Mime scene.
With the Mr. Mime scene, because I'd seen a snippet of this in the trailer when last ever I saw this trailer, and I thought, that's kind of a funny way of putting a funny scene to put in. Like the premise is that Tim's dad had an informant at the docks, and they go there to try and find him to get some information. And it turns out the informant is a Pokemon, and not just a Pokemon; it's a Mr. Mime. And I laughed so hard at this sequence where the Mr. Mime is like walking out of this warehouse, and he like mimes closing a door behind him, and then tries to get back in through this invisible imaginary door, and he's panicking, and it's so funny. And they try to run after him, stop him from escaping, but he's like running on the spot. He's not going anywhere, and he mimes getting on a motorcycle, and it's like his ears and his skin is flapping like he's driving really fast, but he's not moving anywhere at all. And the bit that made me LOL is where Pikachu's like, he's not going anywhere, just stand in front of him, just get in his way. So Tim stands there and goes, stop, And then in Mr. Mime, in slow motion, Mime's a crash. And he's just like ragdolls onto the floor and he's like... I thought that was so funny. And then the interrogation scene itself is also pretty amusing. Although it took a pretty dark turn.
It does.
Again,
it
for a
gets
kids
really
movie, I was
dark
like,
real fast.
is he miming covering the Pokemon in gasoline and then lighting a match? This is serious.
But that again harks back, and this is a perfect way to wrap it up, because it harks back to what we said at the very beginning, which is they have taken the time to think, how can we use the world and the characters and the Pokemon themselves in a way that benefits the story. And they've taken, right, we have the police, we've got this detective noir-esque angle. What kind of scenes can we take from detective noir movies? And we've got your hard-boiled interrogation scene. But then, they must have gone through, like, okay, well, what kind of Pokemon could we interrogate? And, like, you can imagine this is one of those light bulb moments where they're like, oh, it's a Mr. Mime. And it's like you can imagine the joy and excitement as they're writing this and coming up with this, and they're like, and then he could put like mime gasoline on it, and it's going to be like the Mr. Mime's going to be panicking, but of course there's no real gasoline. And then and then at the end they have a fake match, and they accidentally drop it, and the fake gasoline, and it's like that moment is full of just joy. And
so funny,
it comes across completely. It comes across on Justice Smith, who is miming, because he's doing this entire thing with 2 CGI characters that aren't even there, but it's completely believable, and it's just a beautiful, really fantastic moment.
I was reading something about that scene that I thought was really great. Oh crap, where is it? I'll try and paraphrase, and I'm sorry if I miss bits out. But the production company didn't want Mr. Mime to be in the movie. They thought for whatever reason it didn't really. You couldn't put a Mr. Mime in the film, and it would be consistent with the tone and everything. And the director was so like eager for it to happen, because he obviously thought it was such a great addition. He had to go to the production offices and speak to all the executives and act it out, just to prove that it would be funny and that it would be good, and they obviously bought it and let him put it in. And I think it's one of the best sequences in it.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and as you said, it takes real balls to see that through.
Yeah,
as well. So the gasoline thing, like it's fantastic. It's really fantastic, and I like that there is a studio movie where the studio is protective over what they have, but are willing to, when the creator is like, we have this vision of what we can do with it, let us see it through. This is kind of what it's going to be like. And that stops so much of the other things, like you were saying, they wouldn't let them have Ash Ketchum. It stops all of the J.J. Abrams, do you remember when Ash fought Mewtwo, and when Mewtwo was blah, 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 and like, it doesn't have any of that. It doesn't have any of the, do you remember? The nostalgia isn't drawing from things from the past. It's drawing from bringing you into that world. And Star Wars, the newer Star Wars movies, could have learned a fucking lesson from Detective Pikachu. Where it's not about giving us what we've already had. We know what we've already had, right? It's bringing us into that realized vision. Like, stormtroopers don't have to look like old stormtroopers for us to know they're stormtroopers. Right?
Yeah.
Give us the world and trust us with it, and we're here for it, right? We didn't come in here because you were going to give us the fan service. There's no fan service in Detective Pikachu. There's no bits where it's like, ah,
yeah.
like
I think
that.
Because the whole movie is fan service. The fan
you're there
service
for the property. The property is a Pokemon movie.
Yeah, and it's the first one, so it stands on its own. It doesn't need all those bits like you say. But there's one thing I was going to say earlier, quickly, just to call back about how the emotion does really come across, and they do build it well, and it's delivered so well. It's not exactly without precedent in Pokemon movies, because that the Pokemon first movie that we talked about with Mewtwo, I don't know if you remember it, and it's just coming back to me in bits. I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but Ash kind of dies at the end, protecting the Pokemon from Mewtwo after it goes apeshit, and I remember even I went to see that at the cinema with. I had to take my little brother because even I was probably not very old. I guess if it came out in '99, I was 12, and my parents had zero interest in sitting through an hour and a half Pokemon movie. So they drove me and my brother to the cinema, and we went in to watch it while they sat outside and drank coffee or whatever grown-ups do. And even like that moment where Ash dies, I remember thinking like, oh shit, like I think Ash has died. Like
it's a hardcore moment.
It's
I remember
really
crying.
a hardcore moment because they do it a fair bit throughout the anime where they really show that the love that Ash has for Pikachu and for his Pokemon, and he has such a good heart that he will always put himself in the way of danger if it means protecting his Pokemon, even though he's a bit of an idiot.
It's like in the first episode or the second episode where he's carrying Pikachu through the rain.
Yeah, that's how he gets Pikachu's trust, is that he puts himself through hell in order to protect them. And so when Ash has died, what brings him back is that Pikachu cries and his tears kind of resurrect Ash from the grave. Well, the grave because he's literally
he's turned into a statue or something.
Yeah, and it's like it's heavy emotional stuff to put into a kids movie, and they pull it off here as well.
Yeah.
Gosh,
man. Pokemon, man.
I think I might go and watch this film again. Just straight away.
I think I might start. I haven't played Sword or Shield for like a year now. I might go and get the DLC and
that's
but
what
you know what?
Do
you know what? I've been speaking for a few days with awful commentary channel creator and initial editor of Daddy Issues with Steve. I was talking to him about the Ghostbusters movie and Sony movies and how Sony movies are disgusting trash that is entirely created for the sake of product placement, like all of it, and how frustrating it is that we had this big cultural moment 5 years ago fighting over a Ghostbusters reboot that was made especially to sell Papa John's pizzas. And how Sony Pictures are just corporate scum there to advertise and sell Sony products and the products of their corporate partners. Right? That they're their adverts. They're an hour, they're 90-minute adverts. And what this movie shows is you can make a 90-minute advert and you can make it good, because I immediately am thinking, you know what, I might go and buy that Pokemon DLC because I just watched Detective Pikachu, it was great, and I want to be in that world of it, right?
Yeah.
And if you're building off a property, you can make something that is human and that is art and that is impactful. And by the way, we've got the new Pokemon game coming out around the same time for corporate synergy. But fuck it, this is the one benefit of capitalism, is that Pokemon is good.
Yeah, that goes in the plus column for sure.
Yeah, capitalism plus Pokemon. That's pretty much it. That's what capitalism's got going for it. So it is possible for you to make a movie that is essentially selling a product if you're not a complete cunt about it. So
do you want me to bleep that one, or do you want to leave that one in?
Maybe both.
It sounds better coming out of your mouth than it does with mine. It just doesn't fit my mouth at all. But you own it.
Thank you for listening to our discussion on Detective Pikachu. I enjoyed this one because we've been doing some really heavy stuff recently. Like Neon Genesis Evangelion has been amazing to talk about and to watch again. But it is like a heavy subject matter to discuss. So I'm really glad that we just came in and spoke about just like something that's just full of joy. It's just a joyful movie, and
I definitely needed this to come in between a few of those heavier ones. Yeah, this is much more fun.
Yeah. Well, join us next time. If you've had any thoughts on Detective Pikachu, leave it in the comments below. Like, review. I don't know what platform you're listening to. Maybe we'll have it on Spotify in the near future. What do you do on Spotify? I'm pretty sure you just you listen to this and then Childish Gambino starts playing.
Yeah, I think that's what happens.
Yeah. All right. Well, give Childish Gambino some love for us, and we'll see you next time on Daddy Issues.